and I'm just so delighted to be here. And we have been talking offline for a while, and we decided to just get on and record and talk about what's going on right now in this month of August 2017. It's just a powerful, powerful month. And I know I've been saying that if you've been following me for a while, I've been saying that every month, but this one really is potent. And there are a few things that are happening. We just went through an eclipse of the moon, right? A partial eclipse of the moon. And we're going to go through a full eclipse of the sun on the 21st. And in between that, we've got like Mercury retrograde. So this is a real time of pulling inward and reflecting and taking care of your own energy. And I know we've been talking before we turned the recording on, we were talking about how we actually feel inside. And it's been intense for me. How about for you, Claire?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I've been feeling kind of like I need to get extra sleep, and then there have been things that crop up in my life that are unexpected that I have to take care of, little glitches of things, like I forget to do things and have to do that, and I get in bed later and things like that. And it's just been kind of challenging to sort of stay grounded and focused and all of that. So and in addition to that, we're playing with this concept, or Claire and I have been talking about this concept of the light and the dark, and what that means in terms of how we play with energies within ourselves. And it's just brought up a lot of perspective and a lot of ideas that we kind of want to toss back and forth and share with you guys that are watching, so that you can begin to bring play with the light and the dark, the energies that are coming with the eclipses and the sun being blocked out with the solar eclipse and all of that, and begin to use that metaphorically or however you feel it to enhance your own life. So we've been talking about the shadow and feeling, and the light side of things, right?
It's beautifully highlighted by the eclipse. It's just that really that sharp contrast between the light and the dark side, and within that contrast comes that option of choice. It's really showing us both of this really dualistic expressions of ourselves, and the choice that we've got, which comes through this awareness of how we are being and how we're showing up and living our lives. And so it's, there's so many elements to it, but understanding this kind of duality that we've often got playing is really a great place to start.
It really is. And I think as the year has progressed, that duality, or whatever it is that we're tapped into collectively, is kind of out there in the movie in front of us, with the chaos and the dramas and the, for lack of a better word, entertainment that we're seeing. I don't know how it is in New Zealand, but it's quite a show here in the US. And of course that solar eclipse is coming right across the US. So it'll be a good time for reflection. As that's at least what I'm going to do on Eclipse Day, is I'm actually going to spend a little time taking advantage of the darkness of of not having the sunlight, or the metaphorical sunlight, to go inside and to contemplate some things. And one of those things is, well, not one of those things, but we were talking about this metaphor of how we're in this Leo time of in the zodiac this being the time of Leo. Leo, the sun is in Leo right now. And if you look at it from a metaphorical or a mythological point of view, or an archetypal point of view, you know, Leo is about the lion-hearted. It's the lion, it's the royalty, it's the, what else is Leo?
It's the strength of self.
Power,
You know,
that we were talking about power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yes. You know, and I got a question for my own contemplation today, that really kind of dropped in. That's how it works in my design, is it just drops in one download. And the question was, how are you living out your Leo? So and as Claire and I talk, Claire, as we talked, you're talking about compassion, or I was talking about the lion-hearted, I guess, and that image of the lion's heart, and am I living out my compassion? And then you brought in this sense of power and strength, and you know, how compassion and power and strength are really one and the same, or they're part of each other. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, well, I think the lion archetype is just such a beautiful one to bring in at the moment, because, you know, with this contrast between light and the light side of self and the dark side of self, you know, we can get so lost in the expressions of the dark side of the self, with the doubt and the fear and the anxiety and the worry. And the thing is, it's not real, it's not truly who we are. But when we're relating more to this, you know, past experiences that we've decided to, you know, that we've kind of taken on board and become attached to, it feels so real. But to pull in this lion's heart, I love how you describe it like that, you know, the heart of the lion, where it's this strength of compassion and love and strength of who we are, and leading from that space. You know, the lion is the you know, the king of the jungle, and so if we're leading our lives through this really strength of who we are, we can shift so much of this dark side of ourselves, because it's, you know, it's this really solid ground to go by. There's been such a, you know, with the understanding of strength and power, because there has been so many stand in power really within a lot of that dark essence. Power's been given a really bad name. And so, you know, when we're kind of, you know, wanting to live these light and love spiritual lives, we can shy away from this inner strength. It can be a little bit of shaky ground, but I love how the lion harnesses it. You know, there's no kind of, they can be that, you know, they can be that beautiful, soft, gentle self, but they've still got that real essence of strength. And so it's a really beautiful archetype to feel right now.
Yeah, it really is. And to contrast that, you know, there is a shadow side to the lion archetype, I guess, to the Leo archetype. And I guess we ought to talk a little bit about what is our shadow, or what are we talking about when we're talking about the shadow side and the darkness? You know, what do you feel that is, Claire?
Yeah, so from my you know, awareness and experience of it, our shadow side is something that we have created. It's not an expression of who we truly are. So if we understand that we've got, you know, our physical being, which is our thoughts and our subconscious beliefs and all of that, and even our chakras are part of our physical self. And then we've got our soul essence, you know, this true light that we are, that's the essence of compassion and love. And we're here as these spiritual beings in the physical, but we've kind of become separated from knowing ourselves to be both. You know, it's often either or, but, you know, part of the the teachings that I've been exploring over the last 10 or so years have really, it's about learning how to live and learning how to be this beautiful balance of both of these expressions. And when we talk about the dark side, it's really our separated self that holds the experience of a lot of this darkness. It's, you know, when people talk about the dark night of the soul, it's not really the soul that is experiencing darkness. It's the fact that we have separated from the light of our soul that we feel like it's darkness. You know, but the soul is the light. So it's really the separation that causes a lot of the darkness. How about you from your human design perspective?
Yeah. Well, one thing I want to build on is your framework of the soul and the body, and, you know, coming into as a soul to live in the body. It's really kind of what human design is about, is understanding how these vehicles of ours work, and how to leverage our energy within it so that we just align with the path that our soul's intentions came here to live. So and I got off track there a little bit because you asked me what do I think the shadow side is. So the shadow side is, I think, that part of us that we kind of hide, you know, that part that we don't feel is acceptable, or that part that we're trying to make fit into a box, so that our soul doesn't really get to ride and flow within a body that's at ease. So we you know, in the extreme, in these physical bodies, when there's a shadow that or there's something that we don't find acceptable, we kind of put it to the background. We try to hide it, and sometimes it contorts our bodies. It slows our work, our physiological process down, or distorts it, and then disease sets in, and voila, you know.
Yeah.
The flip side, you know, the ultimate manifestation of tamping down and trying to separate ourselves from something that really is just from something that we judged is not good or not acceptable. And really, it's all, you know, I hate to use the term "it's all good." That's kind of cliche, but none of it has really any tangible meaning except how we perceive it.
Absolutely. It's really the judgment piece.
So,
it's
you know,
poison, isn't it? The judgment that we place upon it, and we think it's right or it's
is
wrong, but it's just what is.
Yeah.
That's kind of another way of looking at it.
Yeah.
I can hear you saying that when you're saying it's all good. It's just what is, until we say that it's right or it's wrong, and then it becomes, you know, compartmentalized into what, you know, we think we should be living our lives like. But we're here to have a human experience, and, you know, we're not here to just be necessarily, you know, doing all the right things. We're here to experience, but when we put the judgment on it, we then, you know, make ourselves right or wrong, and actually in doing that and judging ourselves, we're separating even more from this true strength of compassion that we are. And the thing is, if we're doing things in alignment with the light that we are, we can, you know, I think that what comes up for me is that there might be this little sort of fear piece where if we just totally let ourselves loose, then, you know, we'd do things that might be bad, you know, so we have to judge ourselves. But if we're actually doing things in alignment with compassion, it's going to be loving anyway, even if it's a bit goofy and crazy and, you know, it might be a bit random. It's just an experience.
Exactly.
The joy of living almost. Yeah. And so we don't need to kind of get into that whole situation of judgment with it.
Exactly. And, you know, bringing this back to the world stage, you know, we've got all of these examples of judgment, and compartmentalizing and cutting aspects of ourselves off, and blaming and shame, and all of the other stuff that really keeps us from being light, like literally feeling lighter and being light beings.
Yes, absolutely.
And I love that we've been playing around with this thing about light.
Yes.
Feeling lighter, being light.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. And the fact that we don't need to traipse through this this dark self. There's a lot of kind of talk out there of really needing to go into the darkness to come out into the light, and I don't feel that that's necessary to do. And I know that with people I work with and in my own life, we can use our aspects of ourselves that aren't feeling in alignment with what we're wanting, and bring awareness to them, and then use that awareness to then choose to shift. So it's not like we're ignoring it and denying it altogether, but we don't have to go through it, and why is it there, and what does that mean about me, and what does that mean I believe, because we're just giving more energy to it. So there's really no purpose in really...
And you're wallowing in it.
Yes, and giving the darkness more strength. Even if the intention is to actually...
and that separation. Yeah. What you focus on persists.
Yes.
And I forget what the rest of it is. What you
That's
focus on persists, and it grows. What you pay attention to grows.
Yes.
Especially in I don't know, I would say, like, in the last few years, it's been like that. We're I think there was a time back in the other century, and I can't remember how old you are, but back in the other century, when there was more density in consciousness and in our experience, there was a time when you kind of had to slog through the inner mud to clear it all out. And now it just seems like you can embrace what it is that you've been denying, or not wanting to look at, that doesn't have light on it. Bring it into the light and release it so that you're lighter.
Yes.
So and it's so much easier. Than years and years. Now, I think there are times when people are really have had deep trauma and stuff, and they do need a container where they have to go a little deeper. But for probably the majority of people who find us, they've done that work. Or they've done a good bit of it, and it's not really necessary to go back and rehash it. And that's a point I want to bring up for especially these times right now is, when you see that coming up, or when you get the hungry ghost coming up, or the ego self, or however you put it, the goblins and the gremlins and whatever, when they start to come up right now, it's not to go and slog, it's not there for you to slog through and rehash. It's there to come up, acknowledge, and release. It's kind of like we're cleaning out the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah. They come up to show you who you, like, any kind of resonance of who you still think that you are. Because when you do this model of going into the dark self, you can spend years going through it, and why did it happen, and da-da-da-da-da. But then most of the time you come out of it and go, now what? So you might as well just see it's there and then go, now what, straight away. And once you are at that point, and ready to do that.
Exactly. And there are some people who have designs, where their human design charts will indicate that they are really wired and designed to kind of go into the melancholy. But they're not meant to wallow in it, because they go in, they get what they need, and they come back out. And then, and they kind of dive in and they dive out with their emotions, and, it's not about getting in there and trying to fix it and trying to do something. It's just melancholy. It's just what it is for the time that it's there. And I think that's where we get back to that neutrality. You know, it really doesn't have meaning, and unless you're going to dive in and bathe in it and you know, give it meaning. It's there to observe and to embrace, and to you know, for it to show you something to release.
Yes. And if we do go through
Or
these
to just
periods
wait.
of time where we do feel melancholy and sad or whatever, and we do choose to just wallow in it for a while, to also just let that be okay, you know, and try and remove as much as possible this judgment piece. But, you know, let it be okay, knowing that who we are is this light, and one, you know, we are moving back again to it. We will choose to go back to it one day, and much sooner if we don't judge ourselves for being in the sadness.
Because even that is kind of like putting yourself in that shadow place, or you know, bringing up, disconnecting yourself so that there's this shadow place within you. You know, when you put that judgment on, here's my melancholy, and it's really bad, and I, you know, I don't want people to see me, and I've got shame around it or guilt around it, and you know, and all of that meaning that's just kind of like a story. A story that we wrap ourselves in to keep from revealing ourselves and our lion hearts.
Yeah. I love the Lionheart piece, you know, just even if you choose to be in the sadness for a while, or even if you choose to be in the, you know, to start exploring this light self, if we can do it with the lion's heart, you know, the road just feels so much more steady and strong and, you know, stable. I think we can really beautifully call upon that energy of the lion's heart to call in that stability and our own inner centeredness, and, you know, the body's natural balance with the strength of light and love within us.
Yeah.
Beautiful analogy.
That's beautiful. Wow. So how are we going to use, I'm looking at our questions that we kind of hash back and forth, and how are we going to use the energies of the cosmos to grow our light and the light in the world so that we can have positive impact?
Yeah. Well, I think a piece of it is not using them for a start as an excuse, because, you know, I see that quite a lot where we can be told that these, you know, kind of energies are coming through, and there's this warning sign and that warning sign, and then people are like, oh, I can't live my life today because the cosmos is, like, you know, saying it's, you know, not helpful. But there's you know, it's part of the universe, which is the frequency of light, and the universe is here to support us. And so I feel like, again, it's having this strength of self, and really using the energy of the cosmos, the illumination of the moon and the stars and everything that's going on to support us, and also, you know, bring that compassion piece in, even if it feels chaotic, and if we're feeling tired, to not get lost in that tiredness or that feeling of chaos, and, you know, do what we need to do to guide ourselves out of it rather than getting lost and stuck in it. You know, so that might be going and taking a long bath and putting your hand on your heart and just really feeling yourself again. Turn off the news, especially if you're feeling chaos. Yeah. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah. I think that's beautiful. I think that's perfect in terms of, you know, just being with yourself is so important. And if you're really with yourself, you know, you're going to elevate. into lightness or into the light.
Mm.
Because your true self is not that story.
Yeah.
You know, your true self is not that piece that you disowned, or that piece that you judged as being bad. You know, your true self is this your true self kind of floats like a cork on the water and
Yeah.
moves through life, and takes it as it comes, and it is light. You know, it can be a lot lighter when you're really with yourself, and you're able to embrace and release and just move with the flow of how you're being supported.
I love that, move with
So
the flow.
and
And
you have something
yeah.
coming up. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Just touching on that piece, I love how you just said to move with the flow and the cycles of life. And you know, so it's I think it's really a beautiful practice to be aware of the cosmos. You know, it kind of shows our connection to this greater self, even more of who we are, and to use it to fuel our light rather than to fuel the kind of excuses of keeping ourselves small. And something that could be fun that people could play around with, just to give people a little takeaway here, is to ask themselves who they know themselves to be in any kind of situation,
Yes.
especially as well helpful if you're feeling the chaos or the struggle or the fear or the pain, anything like that. Just taking a minute and asking yourself, who do I know myself to be, you know, in this moment. And use it as a point of awareness. So it's a way to take us out of the judgment and just into this space of self-awareness. And then we might choose to leave it there with the awareness of what's happening for us now. Or we might choose to go, I'm over having this struggle. I'm choosing something else for ourselves now, and just take this, you know, whatever steps are required in that moment to start to shift the self that we are, the sense of being. So
Yeah. Who do I know myself to be in this moment? And I've been talking a lot about paying attention to when you feel like yourself and when you don't. And that's a really great question to ask,
yeah.
especially when you don't feel like yourself, when you're in this a place of resistance, or in a place of vibration that just, you know, that doesn't feel light to you, that's not flowing. You know, to recognize that, and then reorient to, who do I know myself to be in this moment? Who am I really? If I don't feel like myself, then who am I really? And let me see how close I can get to that in this moment.
Yeah. And there's no right or wrong answer to the question. So it's really a true question of just exploration. And if we, you know, if who we know ourselves to be in that moment is really grumpy and frustrated, then it's an awareness, and we're one step closer to being able to do something.
Embrace it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, embrace it. Embrace it. Own it. Be courageous and powerful, and just own it in the moment. It won't be there forever if you choose for it not to be.
Yeah, exactly. If you choose, and that's
awesome.
that lion's heart empowerment, to have that choice. Yeah. And I think the experience that we're putting forward to people next week, it will be a really great way to, you know, really help people to shift a lot of this. If so, to use this question, who do I know myself to be? And if a lot of kind of heaviness and what might be felt as darkness comes up, you know, next week the experience that we're sharing with people will be such a nice way of energetically shifting that, and to open up and allow for more, you know, light and freedom to come in.
Awesome. Yeah, we're having an event next week, and it's going to be awesome. Yeah, it's going to be right after the eclipse, on the day. Well, here in the northern hemisphere in the United States, it's going to be the evening after the eclipse has traversed the entire continent, or the entire country. And I think it's going to be 9 p.m. Eastern. Did we decide on that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And however that shakes out, but I'm so East Coast centric here. However that shakes out in the other time zones, it's 9 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah.
Gives everybody a chance to get back from watching the eclipse here. And I'm only like 90 or 100 miles from it, so we're going to have a partial eclipse on where I am. Yeah, so do you want to talk a little bit about, share a little bit about what you're going to do? Let me set it up, because I know that people who know me may not know you very well, and I want to let you guys know that I've had some amazing energy sessions with Claire, and they're so, I don't even know how to explain it, that she just holds this expansive space, and it's gentle, but it's powerful at the same time. And I don't know if this happens with everyone, but I get colors, and and I use those colors, or I have used those colors, and they've really shifted things inside of me. And of course then I get to see the shift outside as well, as a response to that. And so Claire's going to hold some space for us and run some energy, right?
Yeah.
Is that how this is going to work?
Yeah, so we're going to invite people to a group energy session next week after the eclipse, where that real contrast of light and dark has moved through, and from that space we've got this powerful choice. So for anybody who's ready to let go of any heaviness, sadness, darkness, stress, fear, worry, anxiety, any of those really heavy feelings, then this will be a beautiful way to. The way I work with the energy is to help bring us into balance with this light self that we are. So we're calling the event "Making Room for the Lighter Self," and we'll do a group energy session together. And I love doing work with people in groups, because we really it's this synergy that happens with a group where everyone's coming together and working with their energies, and we all work together with it. And I'll guide everybody through that, and it's how to live, working towards living in this balanced self, more integrated with our light in the physical self, which is what we've come here to be. So I'm really excited to be able to share that experience with you and others next week, Sandy. And I think it'll be really fun, and such a perfect time with everything that's happening, all the energies that are moving through the earth at the moment.